afternoon, Mr. Cloute. Welcome to the Illinois Lutheran High School podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be the first guest.
So I just have some questions for you because I know you're a new teacher this year who was on an emergency call. So my first question for you is what motivated you to become a teacher?
I would say it's a twofold answer. So first of all, one of my favorite things in life is just building relationships with people. And this is a job where that's not only part of the job, but that it's essential to the job, right, is building relationships. And I've already noticed that in my first year, just as I expected, that the best teaching happens when you have that personal connection with the students. So that would be the first thing, is the relationship building. And then the second thing would be the content itself, which I would say I didn't have a fascination for literature until maybe senior year of high school. So it was kind of late in the game that I decided, what do I want to be a teacher for? But I actually got into literature through watching film. I got really into just getting into the weeds and discussing and analyzing film. And soon enough, I started to realize, there's a lot of overlap here between film and literature. And that was kind of my gateway into this whole, world of literature.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds really cool. Did you have like a teacher that might have inspired you?
I think there are definitely teachers that inspired my teaching style. But when it comes to, my love for film and my love for literature, I would honestly cite my brother. My brother at some point, and I just started watching films senior year of high school, and it just slowly, exponentially, we just got more and more into it and started getting into more and more obscure films and more date films. What have we been missing this whole time? Because we had been growing up on, these big blockbusters, Transformers, and, the superhero movies, and we had enjoyed them, but we kind of thought that's all film was just kind of this, you go into the movie theater, you have a good time, and then you leave. But to think that there was this whole opportunity for discussion and for exploring these ideas through this medium, and then subsequently I find through literature too, it's like, what have I been missing my whole life?
Definitely. So on the topic of teachers, when you were a student, who was your favorite teacher, and why were they your favorite teacher?
I think of Mr. Emhoff first. Mr. Emhoff was my 6th grade teacher. I believe it was math. Not that math was my favorite subject, but as you could probably cite, a great teacher can make any subject, regardless of how much you like it,
definitely
entertaining. And this guy was just, he was essentially up there doing stand-up. He would have this bit that he would do where when he would get quote-unquote angry, and he was making a big show of things, it was kind of like a joking anger. He had these yardsticks. Every day he had this yardstick that was sitting on his whiteboard. And every once in a while, when he'd get really fired up or he'd get on a pedestal about something, he would break the yardstick in some comedic way. So I think one time he snapped it over his leg. One time he broke it in a fan, I believe. And I think another time he just straight up threw a yardstick out of the window. But the funniest thing of this all is that we had no idea where these yardsticks were coming from, because we'd come in the next day and there'd be, without exception, a brand new yardstick sitting on the whiteboard. So I'm thinking he must have had a whole stash of yardsticks somewhere.
That sounds really cool.
And I think that just showed me that, to a certain extent, as a teacher, you can be yourself and you can have fun, as long as not getting out of hand. You kind of got to read the room a little bit. But on that, he also sticks in my mind because he was the one teacher that I really remember really sticks in my mind when he actually did get upset at me. And I think it kind of goes to show that the teachers that you look up to the most, the teachers that you want to give your best to, are almost the ones that it sticks with you most when they get upset with you.
Definitely.
And so after that, I stayed straight in line because I was like, I never want to make Mr. Emhoff upset again. That's another thing that I kind of want to model as a teacher. I don't want to be a teacher that demands respect, but a teacher that the students just want to respect, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I had a little more personal question. What are some of your pet peeves?
Pet peeves. Many of my friends, my family can attest to this. Loud chewing. I just can't do it. Sometimes I'll physically have to leave the dinner table because because it is irrational. And sometimes it's just like I gotta go. And it's driving me nuts. I don't know why.
So like gum, you don't like hearing people chewing gum?
Yeah, like smacking of gum. It's really like, it must be psychological because it doesn't matter like what kind of chewing it is, whether it's like mushy chewing or like crunching or like smacking gum. It's all something going on in there that's like, it's just it drives me nuts like nothing else. I don't know.
Definitely. So I had another personal question. What were you like as a child in your younger years?
Interestingly, I was actually a very reserved child.
Oh, really?
I was very quiet, I think, up until like maybe 8th grade. I was known as a quiet kid. Why that changed, I couldn't tell you. I mean, maybe going to boarding school, I went to Cloute prep, and maybe that just kind of forces a person to get out of their shell a little bit and meet new people, talk to new people.
Definitely.
So that could be a reason. But for how much I consider myself an outgoing person now, it's kind of surprising how shy I was as a kid.
Yeah, definitely. So I know you did speak about one of your teachers in 6th grade. Mm-hmm. Other than him, do you have any other people that impacted you in your life greatly?
I have an excellent family, just a very supportive family that had high expectations for me, but didn't force a path on me. It's kind of that perfect balance of like, I'm going to let you follow your path, whatever that may be, but I also am going to have high expectations for you. Like, I don't want you to just be lazy and waste your life away. And I think striking that balance is really a role model for me for how to teach. So I would cite them, and then many college professors, maybe too many to name, but if I were to highlight one, Professor Thompson at MLC is an incredible role model for teaching and for specifically how I want to teach and structure an English class in such a way where he teaches the content, right? But most of it is through discourse, it's through dialogue, right? So he's a master at asking the right questions and letting the students arrive to their conclusions on their own because he knows how to get them there.
Definitely.
And there might be a myriad of conclusions. He knows how to run a conversation. That is something I absolutely look up to.
All right. What is your favorite piece of literature, and why is that your favorite piece?
So this might be stealing Mr. Kopp's thunder here, because I have the same answer as Mr. Kopp, and I've actually made a deliberate effort to read enough literature where I have a different answer from Mr. Kopp, and it might take a while because this book is Wuthering Heights, Emily Bronte. This book is, it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat. And I think it's just because it explores so much in a book that's not incredibly long. Already you have the scope of the story that runs across generations. It follows this girl who's kind of got a rough home life as a kid. And so she falls in love with this guy, Heathcliff. Right? So you got Catherine and Heathcliff, because he's kind of the only person who even gives her the light of day, doesn't treat her poorly like her family does. And from then on, the novel really explores and touches on this idea of what is, who sings that song, What is Love, Baby Don't Hurt Me? I feel like everybody cites that song where nobody cites the artist. Anyways, that is the central question of the novel, is what is love, and how do we as people taint that word or manipulate that word. Because is the love that Catherine and Heathcliff experienced, is it more of desperation, like she had no one else to run to? And then Heathcliff, and I don't want to spoil too much, but when their relationship goes a little rocky and it doesn't go how he expects it to, he lashes it out, and he takes that out on the next generation and treats them poorly, which also makes you wonder, is this love? Is this truly the love that he says, like, oh, I'm doing my frustration, my anger, and my rage, this is because of Catherine and because of my love? And it's like, are we manipulating the terms a little bit?
Yeah.
And so it gets into that. It's like, where does love become hate? And where does love become abused? Yeah.
Another question. As you're still a college student, do you have any tips for us high schoolers that are planning to go to college?
So there's always going to be the cliche answer, right? Of just enjoy it, take it for granted. Or don't take it for granted, just enjoy it. But really, how practical is that? I mean, I feel like it's kind of a tired cliche. And it's true that I think that most people have the tendency that when they are in a good time in their life, they have the tendency to not appreciate it in that time, and they don't appreciate it until they're reflecting on it. Okay, so there's truth in saying enjoy the moment, don't take it for granted. But once you actually get to college, you find that's a lot easier said than done, because you're just, you got piles of work and you have so many things to worry about that it's like, okay, I know I should be appreciating this, but it's getting to be a little stressful. And so for me, like practically, I think the skill that helped me out the most in college was learning time management. And if you remember, we talked about this in study skills, but right, learning how to chop up tasks and learning how to be very deliberate and with yourself and say, I'm going to discipline myself and say this hour is strictly for studying. And then I am deliberately giving myself these 5-10 minutes for a break, rather than just kind of feeling it out and saying, when I'm tired, I'll get a break. But being very deliberate with that, and then when you do have free time because you got all your work done and you don't have anything to worry about in the weekend, it becomes so much easier to not take that time for granted and to appreciate it because there's nothing else on your mind. There are so many situations in my life where I was so stressed out, and in hindsight, I just look at it and I say, I just should have been smarter with my time. I should have taken a pen and physically wrote down 7 to 8, you're doing this. 8 to 9, you're doing this. Break. As obvious as it seems, that to me is the most like practical, you can start doing it today method that I would say it's like really helped me in college.
Another question, what is your favorite thing about the school, the Illinois Lutheran School?
Sure. I think naturally with it being a small school, there's naturally a lot of benefits to that, right? Like I talked about before with relationship building. It's naturally going to be easier. For students get closer when you are constantly around your class, and it's a smaller class. So, right, you might, I don't know, would you say that you are pretty acquainted with everybody in your freshman class?
Yeah, I would think so.
Right, so I mean, with there being less people, it's maybe easier to do that. It's easier for the teachers to deliberately ask questions, spend time with each of the students. So you have that, but you do also have, which an aspect that you maybe don't have with a lot of other small schools, is you have diversity. And so you have the mix of these two things, where it is a small school and there's that closeness, but there's also that diversity. And so you get different perspectives. And so you get different backgrounds. But despite those differences, despite those backgrounds, it becomes this, very close-knit relationship with those things.
Yeah, definitely.
And I really appreciated that when I came here.
All right, yeah. Another question. What do you think strengthens your faith, like in Christ?
That's a really good question. What strengthens my faith? I think for me, and this might not be true of everyone else, but for me it is, I think, wrestling with the big questions. For some people, and understandably so, that there is a hazard to that. And I will admit there is a hazard to getting too deep into doubts, too deep into questions, and just interrogating Scripture too much to the point where you are losing trust in Scripture. There's certainly a slippery slope. But I would say when I have had those questions that just have not left my mind, and I've tried to push them and bottle them up, it has not gone well. Whereas if something is legitimately bothering me and I go to a trusted pastor, I go to a trusted professor or friend, and I really sit with it, I've always come out on the other side with a stronger faith. And I really appreciate the people in my life that are really willing to, ask those big questions. Maybe once again cite many of the professors at MLC, and I would also cite Mr. Kopp. Throughout college, we had many these long conversations where we just really got into the nitty-gritty of whether it's theology or literature, and I appreciate that Mr. Kopp was there to take those questions seriously instead of pushing them away and saying, that's too scary. That question's a little too big.
Definitely. Yeah, another question. What is something that many people do not know about you?
I don't tell a lot of people that I'm working on a graphic novel. And perhaps it's because the progress has been slow, that I'm not to a point where I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. But it's something that I'm very serious about finishing. So maybe that would be it.
Yeah, that's cool. Are you do you do the artwork yourself, or just the writing of the dialogue?
Yep, the artwork and the writing and everything, which is one of the reasons it can be kind of overwhelming, and one of the reasons I can just push it aside, because it is kind of a big thing that I'm taking on. But I really believe that it'll be worth it if I can achieve that goal.
What's your favorite type of music?
I feel like I'm going to run back to the very cliche thing that everybody kind of says, right? I listen to a little bit of everything. So I'll try to be more specific than that, but I think there is a bit of a range. Most of it falls under rock. So most of it is alternative rock or folk rock or punk rock. Those would be kind of my favorites. Specifically, if we're going specifically into a band, I am really into Radiohead right now.
Because of Mr. Kopp.
No, actually, I got Mr. Kopp into Radiohead. Other way around. So, he was probably meaning to listen to them for a while because they're a big band, right? So I don't want to take the credit for that. But, just they do so much on a technical level, and yet it's still very accessible music. I feel like anybody can listen to Radiohead because it's just the sounds they use are so unique, and there is really nothing not to praise about Radiohead. It's such a unique band. The lyricism is so good. The vocals are so beautiful, and wow, I could go on about Radiohead, but they're kind of, I think, would describe my music taste in a lot of ways. Music that is still easy to listen to, but is not
too out there?
No, I would say music that's not too safe, actually. So just very generic pop music. It's easy on the ears, it's easy to listen to, but I'm always thinking you can do a little more than that. So experimental music that's still kind of got a catchy riff or a catchy chorus to it is maybe how I would describe my taste there.
All right, who would you say is your favorite social media influencer?
Now, I don't really know how to answer this, so I'm going to kind of go to YouTube, because I don't know a lot of straight social media influencers that, is that just somebody who goes on Instagram and
it's makes content anywhere. YouTube.
Oh, so YouTube counts.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I'm going to say Rhett and Link, who do Good Mythical Morning, but I want to have Rhett and Link, just all of their content in general, because I actually like their older songs and stuff that they do. They do all sorts of things. They're just two witty and just very genuine guys that have had this friendship since they were a kid. And they started out by making songs and skits, and then eventually they moved into kind of like a visual podcast called Good Mythical Morning, where they do different challenges and they do like taste tests from around the world, or they have a Will It series where they take like Will It Oreo and they put different things in Oreos and they say, does it Oreo, yes or no? Will it taco? They're just great, genuine, funny guys.
I'm gonna pretend like I know who they are.
Well, you don't have to. This could be a pitch. This could be my plug for them. But they post like a video a day, so it might be hard to like get into them because they have like a daily thing.
So there's like a little try hard.
Maybe. I mean, they kind of turned into an industry a little bit. I mean, I think when YouTubers get too big, they start to get staff members, and then they start to get into a little bit more of a structure, and that's kind of where they lose some of that personality. So like old GMM and their old songs and music stuff, but when they were really just being themselves and not kind of appealing to this brand, is when they were really like 2012 GMM was peak.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just got another question for you. What is there a class or activity that you wish our school did?
When I was thinking about this question, I think I would immediately, for most schools, especially with Wells schools, most Wells schools don't have film, which is something that's very unique to your school and very cool that you have it. And so in most instances, that's what I would say is a film or creative writing or world literature. But I think the English options here are really excellent, like classes that I would love and that I would love to teach. So I guess I might just say AP English, is because I know you guys have, 2 AP classes?
I believe so.
It's like AP Physics, maybe?
I think, yeah.
But an AP English option could be cool. I mean, I know it really helped me when I had that as a senior. It really prepared me for the test well. And then I didn't have to do any of the kind of the 101 courses in college, which was really nice. So, I mean, I think it would be useful to people.
All right, yeah, that's really cool. And I saved the best question for last. What everybody's asking: what is the situation regarding foam soap?
So one of the first things that I discovered when I became a teacher is that students will quickly try to break down the barrier between your teaching life and your personal life. And so they will bombard your social medias. They will bombard the internet. And so maybe this is where I need to look at the camera and say, if you are a future teacher, check what you have on the social medias, right? Make sure that, because students are going to look at it.
Yeah, definitely. Teresa really found that pretty quickly, too.
Yeah.
It was really easy.
Not that this was anything I'm particularly ashamed of. This was it was literally just a joke on TikTok about how, when you go to a guest house and sometimes they have that special soap, like the special foam soap that they set out. It was just a joke about how much I like that foam soap. And that was it.
Yeah. And then,
But when students started saying foam soap in class, I was like, maybe I should take this. Maybe I should privatize a TikTok. I think that was my one TikTok that I had on my account.
You had another one.
And pretty much everything else, social media wise, I was very deliberate of
yeah, definitely
privatizing it.
Yeah, because Teresa told me that she tried looking for anything else, but the only things that she could find were something about like Toy Story and something about foam soap.
I think that's why the students targeted that, because it was their only in. Because I did think about it beforehand, and I thought, this is a harmless video, but they will find a way to break those walls.
They'll find a way to make some jokes.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, this was a great interview, Mr. Cloute.
Yes, I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Once again, I'm honored to be the first guest that you chose me.
Yes, thank you.
It means a lot to me.